In this episode of the Black Dawn of Graphene, I will take a different direction. In part 1, I covered some of the worldly aspects. Here I will show how it relates to Egypt and the entertainment industry. In part 2 of my Trump the Falconer series, I brought up graphene. I saw that Jennifer Marlowe of WKRP and Spider-Man from No Way From Home were wearing black and gold outfits. For some reason, I thought it was symbolic of graphene. Well, I wasn't wrong. I typed in the search, graphene black and gold. Well, what do you know? Something popped up. For starters, the University of Manchester, the Tsinghua University in China, and the Chinese Academy of Sciences have discovered that a nanoscale trace of gold can be extracted from graphene. But this ties into Jennifer Marlowe's and Spider-Man's outfits that have trace lines of gold in their black outfits. Graphene, the king of new materials known as black gold, as this article suggests. I guess it's not oil anymore. Or this article, Graphene Gold, MIT finds new properties in pencil lead. This particular article was dated November 16, 2023. That's right, 11/16 or 9/11 backwards. This abstract from October 25, 2019 titled Spontaneous Formation of Gold Nanoparticles on Graphene by Galvanic Reaction Through Graphene. So basically, these Chinese people came up with a method to get gold to form on graphene. Wow. Graphene is said to be a better conductor of electricity. Is this part of the reason why? Is the formation of gold a part of it? I don't know. But that's not all. Now I'm going to cover the Egyptian part of this story. By now, we have all become aware of the black goo. This comes from the canopic jars of Egypt, the DNA from the organs of the pharaohs turning to goo. Well, that's not the only place the black goo can be found in Egypt. Apparently, they put it on their coffins as well. So in both cases, the black goo is associated with the dead. Here's the article. Several ancient Egyptian coffins and mummy cases have been found covered in a mysterious black goo. The story starts to focus on a particular Egyptian priest who worked at the Temple of Amun. Maybe I'll learn more about this priest later, but right now I want to stay focused on the black goo. They do also mention that they found multiple coffins and mummy cases like this from the 22nd dynasty. The composition of the coffin's black goo is plant oil, animal fat, tree resin, beeswax, and bitumen. Bitumen is a solid crude oil. The beeswax makes me think of the hive. One type of tree resin can be from pine trees. Well, this makes me think of Back to the Future, where the guy in 1955 was growing pine trees. Is this a symbolic reference to the black goo covering the pineal gland? What is also interesting is that the writer of this article says bitumen is an umbrella term used for crude oil products. So now we have an umbrella reference to the black goo, the umbrella, the syringe. They say the bitumen is made from dead animal and plant matter that has been compressed over many years. They even say that because of the biomarkers of the bitumen, they can determine they got it from the Dead Sea. The black goo is all about death. Apparently, Osiris was called the Black One in some old funerary texts. The Egyptians even painted some of their deities' statues with this black goo. And here's a black and gold connection. Tutankhamun's gold coffin had the black goo in an inner layer of it. Also, that Egyptian priest I mentioned earlier had gold leaf painted on his face of the coffin, after which they poured the black goo over it. So does the Egyptian black goo have a connection to the black graphene and gold? If you remember from my past videos, I've mentioned that there is a new graphene car wash in Texas. It promotes a graphene clean car. I'm sure you've heard of people refer to cars as metal coffins. So now people are spraying graphene on their metal coffins. This is similar to the Egyptians putting the black goo on their actual coffins. Not only that, but as I mentioned in part 1 of this graphene series, they now make auto parts out of graphene. So now the cars have graphene on the inside and outside. This is like people. They want to inject us with the black goo while they're spraying us with the sky trails. People will have the black nanotechnology on the inside and outside of us. Now I don't know about you, but my first observation of the black goo was in the X-Files series. The black goo seemed alive. It seemed to possess people. But I'll let Fox Mulder describe it.
According to the analysis, it's 50-weight diesel oil, Scully. That's the same oil that was used on World War II submarines and on P-51 Mustangs, for that matter.
I don't understand.
This oil is not only 50 years old, Scully, but its composition has been altered by exposure to radiation.
I still don't understand. How did this get onto the diver and then onto the diver's wife?
I don't think this is just ordinary diesel oil, Scully. I think it's a medium. A medium being used by some kind of alien creature that uses it to body jump.
50-weight diesel oil that has been altered due to radiation, allowing it to become a medium used by an alien, in his words, to body jump. This is similar to the black goo found on the Egyptian coffins, bitumen, a crude oil, besides the other ingredients I mentioned earlier. The article also states that there may have been other ingredients that are no longer detectable, that they may have been downgraded or evaporated. Degraded sounds like a term used for radiation. The oily black goo from the X-Files was altered by radiation. Well, the black graphene nanotech that will be injected into people will interact with the cell towers. They use EMF radiation. The black nanotech graphene and EMF radiation may become a medium for possession by a dark spirit, not alien as Mulder suggested. Don't think the black goo can be injected? In the X-Files, the black goo possesses Krychek. He eventually makes his way to an alien ship. It is shaped like a triangle, like an arrowhead. As you can see, the black goo leaves Krychek and goes back to the ship, the arrowhead, the syringe. The black goo enters into a spiral on the ship, the spiral portal. This is also like putting poison into an arrowhead. Think that this is the only example of a black graphene nanotech goo coming from an arrowhead-shaped alien ship? Well, here's a clip from Smallville. As you can see, in the LexCorp basement, Lex the X has an alien arrowhead ship. In this case, we can also think of Lex as Elon. While Lex can represent Trump, Elon and Trump go hand in hand. Next clip. The pool of black goo then divides up into two streams and moves along the ground, like two fangs of a serpent, coming from the black pool like a gom, a muddy pool. The fangs then begin to form into a crystalline structure. In the wiki page for graphene, it is called a two-dimensional carbon crystal. In the article, graphene, the king of new materials known as black gold, It calls graphene a two-dimensional crystal. So the black goo pool just turned into crystals. Black carbon graphene crystals. Then what do the black crystals form? It turns into a human-looking android. In the Smallville series, they call him Brainiac, for Brain Interactive Construct. Brain Interactive Construct, that sounds like a brain chip. Or is graphene itself an interactive construct? Fox Mulder said the black oil goo was a medium for possession. In the show, Brainiac is an artificial intelligence that can change his form. He can also clone himself. He can also turn his fingers into a wire and insert them into a human's brain, putting them into a drone-like state. The victim's eyes turning white like they're possessed. Remember when Yuval Harari said humans are hackable animals? Is this what he was talking about? Notice that one of the spots that Brainiac inserts his wire into is the pineal gland area. Keep in mind that graphene was discovered in 2004. 1 year later, Smallville's version of Brainiac shows up in 2005. So the scientists already have an idea of what graphene is actually capable of. Can it make a synthetic life form like Brainiac? I don't know. But what else does the graphene goo do?
What am I looking at?
We don't really know. The metallic dust, somehow liquefied.
So the black dust turned to black goo. Didn't I just read about smart dust swarms and utility fog in the last video? So this stuff can turn into a liquid? Is that right?
Dust doesn't just turn to liquid.
It's evolving. That metal is sentient. It's alive. Without being contained by meteor rocks and low levels of radiation, the liquid has mobility. It appears to want out.
That dust, that goo, it's evolving, it's sentient, it's alive. But what else does the graphene goo do?
There's no way to trace where the alloy disappeared to?
Mr. Luther, I don't need to remind you that the properties of that substance weren't exactly conventional.
Well, unless you're ready for a front row seat to the apocalypse, I suggest we find it.
So once the graphene goo escapes, Lex believes it will create an apocalypse, the extinction of the human race as we know it. The infamous they are already putting this stuff everywhere. Then, as you can see, the graphene goo possesses the scientist. Her eyes turn black like Krychek's from the X-Files. So this means that the goo from the X-Files and the goo from Smallville have similar properties. For those that think these shows are just about entertainment will probably just say that Smallville was copying the popular X-Files show or something. Well, it's apparent to me that I will have to do a third part to this graphene subject. There's more to cover. So thank you for watching and keep Jesus in your heart.